I hate roguelikes. Among video game genres, the roguelike has got to be the dumbest concept imaginable, except maybe walking simulators. But Jesus Christ, who came up with the idea of having a game where the concept is that you have to start over every time you die, and nothing stays the same, so you have to start over blind, and if you listen closely, you can hear the clacking of keys and the whoosh of Cheeto dust of roguelike fans flying to the comments section to type their two favorite words, skill issue. Not nearly as impactful as their cousins, the Soulsborne fans, saying get good. But you know what? As much as Soulsborne games piss me off, at the very least in those games, you're banging your head against a brick wall that's bound to break due to sheer determination as you try on better and better hard hats. Roguelikes are like someone threw you into a metal room with a ball-peen hammer and said good luck. You don't make progress in roguelikes through skill, you make progress with insane amounts of patience and luck. It's not about skillful dodge rolling, blocking, learning patterns. It's about hoping that the next random generated level has the right amount of loot for you to keep on moving. Anyway, The Darkest Dungeon is, according to Steam, a turn-based dark fantasy dungeon crawler roguelike RPG Lovecraftian difficult single-player strategy game with turn-based combat and a horror dark 2D gothic fantasy atmosphere that was developed by an indie team and funded by Kickstarter. And it revolves around some prick who fucked up, so he writes a letter to another prick, that being you, to hire a bunch of crash test dummies, mercenaries, to clean up the whole mess and reverse his fuck up. The gameplay is presented by starting off in this mobile game looking homeworld, and once you're done recruiting meat for the slaughter, mercenaries, upgrading their abilities and equipment, you can go to the Expedition tab. Here you'll select a level and then buy provisions, none of which of these provisions involve health potions, by the way. So if you don't have a healer or any way to recover health in any sort of fashion, you pretty much get to eat shit. And you won't have a healer because healers show up very rarely as recruitable, and you can guarantee that by the time you get through the second run with them, they will die. In fact, everyone will die. The Steam description for this game reads, The Darkest Dungeon is a challenging gothic roguelike turn-based RPG about the psychological stresses of adventuring. Recruit, train, and lead a team of flawed heroes against unimaginable horrors, stress, disease, and the ever-encroaching dark. Can you keep your heroes together when all hope is lost? And the answer to that last question is no. No, you cannot. See, The Darkest Dungeon, among many of its other combat and loot mechanics, has one major mechanic that I hate from the very bottom of my soul. It's called the stress mechanic. Essentially, just existing in the dungeons causes your cannon fodder, mercenaries, to start to go mad. When the meter is full, they will be inflicted with some kind of madness, masochism, fearfulness, hopelessness, paranoia, etc., 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 etc. And the difference between these is pretty poorly explained, and to be honest, they all seem to do pretty much the same things at different intervals or rarities. Things like refusing to follow orders, refusing heals, stressing out your other walking tombstones, mercenaries, acting on their own, and sometimes, quite randomly, having a fucking heart attack. Yeah, if they get stressed enough, they'll just straight up drop fucking dead. It'll always be when you are almost done with the fucking dungeon, and it will always be your goddamn healers. And remember, once one of your dudes gets put on a t-shirt, it's permanent. All upgrades, equipment, money, and time spent on them is gone forever. Lost to the mercy of your digital save file, never to come back. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, maybe there's a way to reverse this stress. Take a bubble bath, drink a beer, relax, get laid, and yeah, actually. One of the two ways to relieve stress on your meat shields, mercenaries, is to literally have them relieve stress. Basically, there are these buildings in the main mobile game hub that you can drag your dudes, dudettes, and inbeuds, God, that joke was terrible, in after a dungeon, and then take another group of Star Trek red shirts, mercenaries, on a lower level adventure while your other guys watch Netflix and play Mario Kart, and then you come back to some of their stress will be reset. I say some because sometimes it takes multiple cycles to fully reset them. But what about while we were in the dungeon, you may ask? How does that work? Well, it's simple. While in the dungeon, you get to eat shit. Much like healing, no item gets rid of stress, at least no item that I've seen anyway. The game is pretty piss poor at telling you what things actually do. It does that annoying video game thing where it vaguely describes what a potion does. So you just kind of have to figure it out by waiting for an object in your inventory to light up, right-clicking on it, and then running it from there. Like, there's this one potion that says, and I quote, relieves the fear of the darkness. I thought this had something to do with relieving stress, but no, as it turns out, it cleanses a status effect that rarely shows up, so fuck me, I guess. The only real way to cleanse stress in dungeons is to either use one of the combat skills that specifically does so, or use a camping skill. And before you COD players get PTSD flashbacks of being insta headshot by a kid who's been sitting around a corner for half an hour with one hand on the controller and one hand down his pants, camping skills are out of combat abilities granted to your scapegoats, I mean mercenaries, and can be used once in larger dungeons. You see, larger dungeons come with the ability to set up camp 1 time, 2 times, and I think 3 times. I haven't really gotten that far. This is the time where you can get a paltry amount of healing from the campfire, depending on the amount of food you have on you, and then you get a pool of skill points to be used as payment to do things like boost stats, resistances, heal larger amounts, and yes, reduce stress levels. However, even reducing stress levels through this method doesn't really do anything. Let me outline the 3rd time I lost a healer for you as an example. I had this healer who was on the brink of reaching mass stress and going mad. So I spent all my points, reduced her madness by about 50 or so, and then in the very next fight, she went mad anyway, died of a heart attack, and I barely escaped a team wipe. And here's my biggest issue with the game. Your actions feel meaningless. Remember in Dragon Ball Z how every time characters die it doesn't matter because Deus Ex balls exist, and so bringing back people to life was as easy as ordering a pizza, to the point where sometimes they do it off fucking screen? See, that's what this game feels like, except the opposite. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into keeping your mercenaries, mercenaries from going mad. They will go mad anyway. Even after every dungeon you send them to relieve stress, at least one of your members will hit full madness on every single run. It never fails. And realistically speaking, you are constantly having to leave your higher level stormtroopers, mercenaries, in the town to relieve stress so often, you'll constantly be letting the lower level ones die constantly until you've built up the time and the money to have a full party that can last 2 to 3 rounds until you have to start the cycle all over again. So essentially the game is constantly finding ways to force you to slow down. No matter how hard you try, you are always going to have to stop every so often to let everyone recharge, and you're going to have to use the ones that you don't want to use, so it takes the very worst parts of a roguelike and amplifies it times a billion, making the game feel like a slog to get through. But I fucking love this game! I don't know why. Mama told me I could be anything when I grew up, so I guess I grew up to become a masochist. I think it's the fact the game is so mindless. It's just consistently throwing dudes at the wall, hoping that it breaks, with a bit of strategy in the turn-based sense, which tickles the part of my brain that likes trading card games and chess. It's fun to engage in, and despite one of the core mechanics pissing me off beyond relief, I still recommend that you pick the game up if you can. It's on Steam for around 25 bucks, and you're sure to get hours out of it at the very least. I heard that the second one's coming out, and once I finish this one, I'll probably take a look at the second one. But with the way that the game forces me to stop and pick flowers and suck my own dick every once in a while, I'm sure it'll be next year by the time I finish it. Thank you for watching. I know I normally do Dead by Daylight content, but I did want to start doing more gaming related videos, including reviews, discussions, and maybe gaming news. Probably not with that last one, but I wanted to branch out a bit more. Don't worry, you'll still be getting a new Dead by Daylight video every Monday and Wednesday, but don't be surprised if every so often a video on a different gaming subject pops up from time to time. And if you want to watch me play games live and have a chat with me, pop into my Twitch. I love talking with you guys over there, and join us on the Discord. Join us in the Discord to catch me offline practically any time of the day. I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next one.